Welcome to Core Training, Clinical and Operational Redesign. I'm Scott Chapman with Pantheon Business Management, and I'm going to present to you about what is Lean. Before we talk about what Lean is, let's talk about what Lean isn't. There's three common misconceptions with Lean, and there's good reason for that because Lean's been abused by consultants to drive to these three things. But Lean is not about cutting jobs. It's not about making people work faster, and it's not about making people work harder. Lean is about redesigning processes so people can be more successful in their work, and it takes less labor to do the job and provide the same amount of value, and requires less resources to provide the same quality or better quality and higher value to the customer. So the best illustration for what Lean is to take a look at these two pictures side by side. What Lean does is it turns the path an employee has to take to get their job done from this example on the left of this jungle of having to hack through all these conflicting processes throughout the day to get their work done to something like on the right where there's a clear path with guardrails to protect you and ensure that you're successful in making it from one end to the other, where an employee can literally run from start to finish to get their task done in the quickest time possible. Not by forcing them to move more quickly, but you're enabling them to move more quickly between tasks by taking all the obstacles out of their way. You go from an organic, developed organization with conflicting processes to one that has been master planned and made and engineered to be the most efficient path possible to getting work done. So how did all this get started? How did Lean originate? Well, the principles behind Lean have been around since the beginning of time. There isn't anything revolutionary or groundbreaking in Lean other than it's the right way to do business. It's all about providing the greatest value to the customer and understanding what that value is in your processes and how each of the components of that process add value to the final product. Henry Ford is probably one of the most famous pioneers of Lean in the fact that he was able to take a car company and its mission was not just to create cars, but to provide an automobile that everybody can afford. And to do that, his mission was to drive down the costs. The engineering minds in his company spent most of their time, instead of engineering the cars, engineering the cost out of the system and providing the cars. And that's where the genius was with Lean in the development of that organization. The assembly line was just a small byproduct of it, but the genius that went into that organization and the engineering that went into their processes to remove every possible amount of waste in their processes to reduce those costs and drive them down year after year is what made them so successful. Toyota has been the poster child for Lean for many, many years, and what they did is they modeled themselves after Henry Ford's success, and they took that engineering principle and instead of just applying it to their automobiles, they applied it to how they do their work. Phenomenal company. They've had a lot of success. They're not perfect, but because they're always striving for perfection, the culture of their company drives them to be able to succeed and outperform any of their competitors, to be able to do more with less space, less labor, less resources, and with a smaller supply chain and a more closely knit supply chain to help improve communication and quality of delivery. To be able to understand Lean, the first thing we have to understand is that Lean is seeing. Being able to see that the processes we use today to provide goods and services are fraught with waste. They're full of waste. The waste categories for Lean are overprocessing, deploying more resources than is required to achieve the result that you need for your customer, overproduction, producing more product or services than your customer demands, maintaining inventory, waiting, that could be employees waiting, it could be the customer waiting, transportation, of moving product from one location to the other, motion, which is the movement of staff or employees as they go about collecting the items they need for production or moving pieces of items into the right location to be able to do their work. Defects, anytime that we perform an activity and it doesn't meet standards. And then human capital, having underdeveloped staff or improperly trained and deployed, or at worst, disengaged staff that aren't doing work with their hearts in it. So being able to see and identify that waste in the process and in your systems is one of the key foundation principles of Lean. You got to be able to see it to know how to address it. So the power behind Lean comes with eliminating that waste. This empowers an organization to do more of what creates value for the customer, not by running faster, not by working harder, and not by cutting employees. You simply stop doing the things that don't add value for your customer, which gives you more time and resources to provide more of what does provide value to the customer. By eliminating waste, you cut the cost of production and increase quality. This allows an organization to provide greater value at a lower price, which makes them so much more competitive. Henry Ford, when he did this with the automobile, he took the price of that automobile and drove it down, and every time he reduced that price, he opened up a new market segment for that automobile, and it opened it up to greater potential customers, which dramatically improved their volume of sales because they were reaching to a much wider and broader customer base every time they lowered that price. That's the power of Lean, being able to outcompete your competition by increasing your quality and cutting your costs at the same time. Let's talk about value. You've heard me use this term quite a bit already in this presentation. Value has a unique definition in Lean. Value has to meet 3 criteria, and this will allow us to determine if an activity in our process is value added, providing value to the end product or customer, or non-value added, which means it doesn't provide any value to the customer and it's immaterial, or it's non-value added but essential. So there are activities that we have to do, either it's regulatory or because of current limitations and technological advancements, things that have to be done at this stage that are not value added to the customer because they don't meet these 3 criteria, but they are essential, they have to be done. So let's talk about these criteria. Does it change the person receiving the service or product being produced in some way? The first criteria is that when we perform an activity, it has to provide a material change to the customer or service or product in some way. Number 2, the question is it done right the first time every time? If it's not, it doesn't count. You're eating that cost as a company. You're not providing value to the customer if you don't provide the right product or service in the right way. Number 3, would the person receiving the service or product be willing to pay for it? This is critical. We have to put ourselves in the customer's shoe or use their feedback to determine, are they willing to pay for the service or for that activity to be performed? When you look at healthcare, there are a lot of things that have to be done in healthcare that customers, patients simply are not wanting to pay for. It's our waste that we're charging them for. The time that they're sitting in the waiting room, the time that it takes to process their bills, and then they get the bill in the mail, and then the difficulty that they have in being able to interpret the bill, filing claims with their insurance companies. There's so much waste in that system that the person receiving the service, all that they wanted to pay for is to get better. They just want to be healed and to move on. and it's very rare. They actually are paying for a lot more in that whole process of getting their health care than what they're actually just coming to get. So how does an organization get started with Lean? Well, the first thing they have to understand is that Lean is a management discipline. It has to start at the top. Lean is not just a toolbox of problem-solving methodologies. Lean's often started in the middle as a cost savings initiative and never really gets any further than that. That's why it often fails so miserably. For more details on how to start Lean in your organization, you can check out our videos at www.grouppbm.com, and I'll have a slide set just specifically for that. But Lean does have to start at the top of the organization. It has to be part of the executives team understanding. They have to be fully indoctrinated for it to really transform the organization and provide the leadership necessary to do so. So to recap, to really understand what Lean is, you need to take another look at these two pictures. Most organizations develop organically. As they grow, as they merge and acquire other companies, their processes come crashing together, creating a jungle for their employees to have to plow their way through to get their work done every day. A lot of employees are solving the same problems that they solved the day before over and over and over again. Recurring problems can be fixed and taken out of the system through process redesign. We don't have to have our employees have to solve the same problem every day. When you look at the right, you can see an intelligently designed path for someone to travel down. And it's so much easier than trying to blaze a brand new trail through the jungle every day. And this is what our employees want to have. They want to have barriers set up to ensure success and have a clear-cut path that they can literally run from one end to the other to get their work done without anything getting in their way. I'm grateful for the opportunity to share this information with you. If you'd like to see other training videos that talk about many of these Lean concepts in more depth, you can visit us at www.grouppbm.com.